The moment I realized I had been erased from my own family's Christmas, I was standing on my daughter's porch, listening to laughter that didn't include me. My name is Maris Ellington, and I was 68 years old that night. I had driven across town with a pie cooling on the passenger seat and a gift bag balanced carefully on the floor, telling myself not to arrive too early. Rowan liked things timed just right. She always had. The story you are about to hear is a work of fiction created by the Her Chains Channel team, based on real-life situations to convey lessons about family, emotions, and human values. All characters and events are illustrative. Through the glass of the front door, I could see the dining table stretched to its full length. Plates were already set down, glasses half empty, shoulders leaning toward one another in easy conversation. I counted without meaning to. 1, 2, 3. By the time I reached the end, there were 26 people seated, everyone eating, everyone settled. The door opened, but only partway. Rowan stood there with her hand still on the knob, her body angled to block the entrance. She didn't look surprised to see me. She looked irritated. "Mom," she said quietly, glancing back over her shoulder. "It's really full." I waited. I expected the rest of the sentence to arrive. A suggestion, an apology, something. "It's too crowded tonight," she added. "You should probably head home." I looked past her then, just for a second. Against the wall near the sideboard, I saw a folded chair leaning neatly beside the coat rack. Unused, waiting. Rowan followed my eyes and shifted her foot. Just enough to hide it. "I can stand in the kitchen," I said. My voice sounded calm, even to me. She shook her head. That would make things awkward. Behind her, someone laughed loudly. A man I didn't recognize raised his glass. Rowan tightened her grip on the door. I felt something settle in my chest, heavy and final. I did not argue. I did not remind her that I was her mother. I did not ask where I was supposed to go. "All right," I said. Rowan nodded, already relieved. "We'll talk later." I turned back toward my car with the pie still warm in my hands. The door closed before I reached the steps. By the time I sat behind the wheel, the laughter inside had grown louder. I drove away without looking back, the gift bag tipping over at the first red light, and I did not stop to fix it as I headed home alone. I didn't turn the radio on. I didn't reach for my phone. I just drove. The pie slid on the seat beside me when I braked at the first light. I let it. Everything in me felt heavier than it should have, like I was moving through water instead of air. I replayed Rowan's face at the door, the way she had already decided the conversation was over before it started. My phone buzzed. I didn't pick it up right away. I waited until I was parked in front of my house. Engine still running, garage dark. The message was short. "You didn't have to leave like that." I stared at the screen. No apology. No explanation, just a correction of my behavior, as if I had misread the situation. I typed back, then erased it, typed again. "You told me to go home." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "I just meant it was crowded," she wrote. "You know how these things get." "You could have stayed for a bit." I laughed once, quietly, surprised by the sound. A bit, standing, in the kitchen, waiting for someone to notice me. I didn't respond. Another message followed almost immediately. "You always take things personally." There it was. The familiar pivot. Not what she did, but how I reacted. Not the absence of a chair, but my inability to accept it gracefully. I rested my forehead against the steering wheel and closed my eyes. This wasn't new. It was the same tone Rowan had used when she was younger and forgot to call, or canceled plans, or needed money without needing conversation. Calm, reasonable, distant. I finally typed. I got home safe. That was it. No accusation. No explanation. Just a fact. Her reply came seconds later. Good. One word, clean, final. I turned off the engine and sat there for a moment longer, phone face down on the passenger seat beside the pie. The house in front of me was dark, empty, and waiting. I picked up my keys, opened the door, and stepped inside without checking my phone again, already feeling the shape of something larger settling into place. I closed the door behind me and waited, out of habit, for a sound that never came. No footsteps, no television murmuring from another room, no voice calling my name to ask how the drive was. I stood there with my coat still on, keys in my hand, listening to the silence settle. I set the pie on the counter. It was still warm. I didn't bother putting it away. I checked my phone once more before bed. Nothing from Rowan, nothing from anyone who had been sitting at that table. I told myself it was late. I told myself people were busy. Then I turned the phone face down and went to sleep without changing out of my clothes. When I woke up, the house felt the same. Still, empty. Christmas morning passed slowly. I made coffee for one and drank it standing at the sink. I didn't decorate much this year. Just a small wreath on the door and a candle I never lit. I kept expecting my phone to buzz. A simple message would have been enough. Merry Christmas. Mom, hope you're okay. It didn't come. Around mid-morning, I checked again. No missed calls, no unread messages. I opened the text thread with Rowan, stared at the last word she'd sent me the night before, and closed it without replying. I thought about all the times I had rearranged my life to make things easier for her. The weekends I watched her house while she traveled, the errands I ran, the money I lent without asking when it would come back. I had always told myself that was what mothers did, that being needed was its own kind of closeness. I realized then how quiet being useful can be. In the afternoon, my neighbor Dottie knocked on the door with a small container in her hands. She looked at my face for half a second before speaking. "You eating today?" she asked. "I will," I said. "Not a lie. Just not a plan." She nodded and set the container down without comment. "I'm home if you need anything." After she left, I sat at the table and ate a few bites. I didn't taste much. I wasn't hungry. I was thinking about the difference between being invited and being tolerated, and how long I had mistaken one for the other. That evening, as the light faded again, I picked up my phone, not to check for messages, but to silence it completely. Whatever this was, it wasn't about one night. It was something that had been building quietly for years, and now that it had shown itself, I could no longer pretend I didn't feel it. What if the proof you avoided was the reason you were being used? I hadn't planned to open the drawer. I was looking for stamps. Something ordinary. Something that wouldn't require thinking. But my hand stopped on the bottom one. The heavy drawer that stuck when you pulled it too fast. The one I hadn't opened in years. Inside were folders I recognized by touch before I read the labels. Old insurance papers. Tax statements. Receipts I'd kept because throwing them away felt irresponsible. I sat down at the table and opened the first folder without expecting anything new. The deed was right on top. My name was there in clean, unmistakable print. Maris Ellington. Sole owner. I traced the letters with my finger once. Then again. As if they might change if I wasn't careful. The address was Rowan's house. The house she'd just told me was too full for me. I flipped through the pages slowly. Closing documents. Title insurance. A note in my own handwriting from years ago, reminding myself why I'd done it. Temporary help. She'll get back on her feet. The next folder held bank records. Month after month, the same payments, steady and quiet. Mortgage. Utilities. Property taxes. Repairs. I added them in my head before I meant to, then stopped when my chest tightened. I didn't need the total. I knew it was more than I would ever say out loud. There was a knock at the door. Dottie stepped in without waiting for an answer, her coat still on, eyes already scanning my face. "You look like you found something," she said. I slid the deed across the table toward her. She read it once, then looked up at me. So it's yours? Yes. And she knows that she does. I said, she just doesn't talk about it. Dottie leaned back in the chair and folded her arms. Maris, that's not forgetfulness, that's convenience. I didn't argue. I opened another statement. Then another. Each page felt heavier than the last. Dottie watched quietly until I stopped. She treats you like a guest, Dottie said, her voice flat. Certain, because guests don't get a say. Guests don't get respect. Guests just show up and leave when they're told. I swallowed. I didn't want to make things difficult. For who she asked. I didn't answer. Dottie stood and reached for her coat. You didn't lose your place at that table because there wasn't room, she said gently. You lost it because you've been paying for the house instead of standing in it. After she left, I gathered the papers into a neat stack and slid them back into the folder. I didn't put the drawer away this time. I left it open, the proof resting there in plain sight. No longer something I could pretend didn't belong to me. Rowan called just after noon. I recognized the timing before I recognized the sound. It was the hour she always chose when she wanted control without witnesses. I answered on the third ring. You left things weird last night, she said. No greeting, no softness. I did what you asked, I replied. There was a pause. Short, but deliberate. I didn't ask you to make a scene. I didn't make one. You walked out, she said, as if that settled it. I waited. Silence has a way of forcing people to fill it. It was just complicated. She continued, Kellen's family was there. You know how they are. I don't, I said. You've never introduced us. They're particular, Rowan said. They notice things. Things like what? She sighed, the sound sharp with irritation. Mom, this isn't about you. The sentence landed exactly where it was meant to. Clean. Dismissive. So why wasn't I expected, I asked. Another pause. Longer this time. I told everyone you weren't coming, she said finally. I didn't think you'd show up so early. I told you what time I'd arrive. I know, she said. But plans change. For everyone but me, I said. Her tone hardened. You could have stayed for a few minutes. You didn't have to take it personally. I glanced at the folder still open on the table beside me, the deed visible beneath the top sheet. You told me to go home. I said, I told you it was crowded, and yet you had room for 26 people. She exhaled loudly. This is exactly what I meant. You always make everything bigger than it is. I felt something shift then. Not in my chest, but behind my eyes. A clarity I hadn't allowed myself before. You planned for me not to be there, I said. Rowan didn't deny it. Kellen thought it would be better. She said instead, his parents don't really understand our dynamic. Our dynamic, I repeated. You mean your mother paying for your house and being asked to wait in the kitchen? That's not fair, she snapped. Is it untrue? Her silence answered me. I'm tired. Mom, she said, I don't want to fight. I'm not fighting. I said, I'm listening. Another beat passed. Well, she said finally, cool again. I hope you can move past it. The line went dead. I set the phone down beside the papers and didn't touch it again. The conversation replayed itself without effort. Every pause and deflection lining up with what I already knew, this hadn't been an accident. It had been managed. And as I sat there with the proof spread out in front of me, one fact rose above all the others. Steady and undeniable, I had been paying for a place I was never meant to belong. Tamsin Rourke didn't waste time easing me in. She read quietly for several minutes, flipping through the papers I'd brought. Her expression steady and unreadable. You're the sole owner, she said at last. There's no shared title. No lien. No secondary claim. I nodded. Hearing it said out loud felt different than reading it alone at my kitchen table. They live there, I said. Careful with my words. My daughter and her husband. They've been there for years. Tamsin met my eyes. Living somewhere doesn't make it yours. I paid for everything. I said, the purchase, the repairs, the bills. I can see that, she replied. Tapping one of the statements, you weren't supporting them, you were sustaining them. I folded my hands together to keep them from shaking. What does that mean for me? It means you can ask them to leave, she said. Legally, cleanly, how a notice to vacate. Tamsin said, 60 days, delivered properly. No drama. I let the words sit between us. 60 days sounded both long and impossibly short. They'll say I'm heartless. I said, they already have. Tamsin replied calmly, this isn't about changing how they see you. It's about changing what you allow. I thought of Rowan at the door, the way she'd blocked the entrance with her body. The folded chair she hadn't offered. I don't want to punish anyone. I said, this isn't punishment. Tamsin said, it's an end date. She slid a single sheet across the desk toward me. Clear language. No emotion. Just facts. If you proceed, she said, we send this by certified mail. You don't argue. You don't explain. You don't negotiate. And if they call I asked, you don't answer, she said. You let me do the talking. I picked up the paper and read the first line. My name at the top. Authority I hadn't claimed in years. All right, I said. Tamsin nodded once. Satisfied. I'll draft it today. When I left her office, I didn't feel relieved. I felt steady. The kind of steady that comes when something stops leaning on you for the first time. I drove home without checking my phone. Already knowing that when my daughter realized I had stopped carrying the weight for her, everything between us would change. I found out the story had gone public because my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Dottie was the first. Have you seen what she posted? She asked, not bothering to lower her voice. I haven't. I said, well, she says you threw her out on Christmas. Says you abandoned your own child. I thanked her and ended the call without opening anything. 10 minutes later, my cousin Lenora left a voicemail. She spoke slowly, carefully. The way people do when they think they're being fair. Maris, I don't know what's going on, but this feels extreme. She's your daughter. The word extreme followed me into the kitchen. Another message came in from an old friend at church, praying for reconciliation. No question mark, no curiosity, just judgment wrapped in kindness. I didn't respond to any of it. I opened the folder instead. The deed, the bank statements, the dates and amounts. Neat and unemotional. I added one more note to the top page. Notice sent by certified mail. Delivered this morning. The phone buzzed again, this time with an unfamiliar number. Grandma, a soft voice said when I answered. It's Sloan. I closed my eyes. I know. I'm sorry, she said quickly. I didn't know she posted that. I didn't know she told people you abandoned us. You don't have to explain, I said. She told everyone you were being cruel, Sloan said. But I was there that night. I heard what she said to you. Her voice wavered. I waited. She said you'd be in the way. I felt my jaw tighten. Thank you for telling me. I just wanted you to know, she said. I didn't believe her. After we hung up, I placed the phone face down on the table and slid the folder closer to me. Rowan could have her story. I had mine. Written in ink and dates and signatures. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of which one would last. Kellen called first. Not Rowan. I'll be direct, he said, skipping any attempt at warmth. This has gone far enough. I agree, I replied. There was a pause. I could hear him recalibrating. You don't need to involve lawyers. He said, we can simplify this. Go on. You could just sign the house over, he said, as if offering a compromise. It would calm everything down. Rowan's under a lot of stress. I'm sure she is. I said, it was always meant to be hers. He added, that's how she understood it. I let that sit. That understanding didn't come from me. Rowan took the phone then. I could hear her breathing, already defensive. I didn't think you'd actually do this, she said. I thought, eventually what I asked, that you'd stop caring about the paperwork, she said, that you'd want things settled. For the family you told me not to join. I said. She didn't deny it. Mom, that house is my future. We planned around it, but you planned, I corrected, I paid. You never said it wasn't mine, she said. I never said it was. Her voice sharpened. So, what am I to you now, a tenant? No. I said, you're my daughter, but this house was never a gift. Silence stretched between us. So you're really doing this, she said finally. Yes. You won't even talk it through, she pressed. I am talking, I said. I'm just not negotiating. She scoffed. You're choosing money over me. I'm choosing honesty, I said, and boundaries. The call ended without goodbye. I placed the phone down gently, not out of care for it, but because I felt steady enough to do so. Whatever Rowan believed had been promised to her, it had never included respect. And I wasn't willing to trade that anymore. Rowan arrived without calling. I opened the door and found her already crying, mascara smudged. Shoulders hunched as if she'd practiced the posture. Please, she said before I spoke. I just need more time. I stepped aside so she could see the hallway. Not inviting her in. You have the notice, I said. You know the date. She wiped her face. We're trying. Rentals are expensive. Everything takes time. You've had time. I said, 60 days. Her voice softened. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. I understand it very well, I said. She glanced past me. Searching the house for leverage. Just sign the house over. She said quietly. That fixes everything. No. Her expression changed. The tears stopped. You can't do this to me. I can. I said, and I am. You owe me. She snapped. I'm your daughter. I gave you help. I said, I didn't give you ownership. She stepped closer. That house was supposed to be mine. According to whom? She hesitated, then raised her voice. You always said you'd take care of me. I did. I said, you confused care with control. From the hallway behind me, a small sound broke the air. Sloane stood there, pale, eyes fixed on her mother. Rowan turned. You weren't supposed to hear this. Sloane didn't look away. You told Grandma she was in the way. She said, I heard you. Rowan's mouth opened, then closed. Go to your room. No. Sloane said. Her voice shook, but it held. You're wrong. Rowan looked back at me, fury replacing panic. So that's it. She said, you're turning my own child against me. I didn't say a word. I replied, you did. She left without another plea, the door closing harder than necessary. I stood where I was, feeling the quiet settle again, knowing that whatever Rowan told herself after this, Sloane had seen the truth without anyone explaining it to her. The locks were changed before sunrise. I didn't watch the locksmith work. I didn't need to. By the time Tamsin Rourke arrived with the final paperwork, the house had already decided who belonged to it. Rowan showed up late. She looked around first, as if the driveway might offer her an argument. It didn't. Tamsin spoke, calm and precise. The move-out date was today. The property is secured. Keys. Please. Rowan laughed once. Sharp and empty. You really went through with it. Yes, I said. She turned to me, searching for anger she could provoke. You're enjoying this. I'm finished, I replied. She reached into her bag and dropped the keys into Tamsin's hand. No apology followed. No leverage remained. When she left, she didn't look back. And for the first time, there was nothing she could take with her. That evening, I sat at my table with Dottie and Sloane. We ate quietly. Not a long table. Not many plates. Just enough. Sloane met my eyes and nodded, a small acknowledgement that needed no translation. A year later, Christmas looked different. Fewer people, honest invitations. No performance. The house felt lived in again. Here's the lesson I carried forward. The one I wish I had learned sooner: love without respect becomes a transaction. And transactions always come due. Boundaries are not cruelty. They are clarity. When you stop paying for mistreatment, it loses its power. If this story resonated with you, tap like. Share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more stories about choosing dignity when it costs the most.